Asajj Ventress. Destined to be a warrior and assassin of the Sith, she would play a crucial role in the Clone Wars. But before that, she was a Jedi, broken and beaten into submission of the dark side. 50 BBY, Asajj was born on the planet of Dathomir into the Talzin clan, a sect of dark side witches known as the Night Sisters. Ventress was strong in the Force, and so when the Sinatine pirates came to Dathomir, forced Ventress's mother to give up her daughter to Halstead to prevent endangering the clan from the wrath of these criminals. Ventress was taken away to Ratatak to live out her life as a slave. When Ventress was about 5 years old, Halstead would be killed by Qiway pirates, and soon after, she was discovered by a Jedi Knight, Kai Narek, a Jedi who had been stranded on Ratatak and cut off from the Jedi Order for years. Recognizing Asajj's strength in the Force, Kai began training her. For the next 21 years, as they defended the people, they made enemies with pirates and warlords. Osika Kursk was the warlord in control of the majority of Ratatak, and he saw the duo as a threat to his power, sending his soldiers to assassinate them, and during the conflict, Kai was gunned down. Ventress held her master in his last moments with so much sadness, which quickly turned to anger. Asajj turned, striking down all of the assassins, and giving into the ways of the dark side. Ventress then went on a rampage, slaughtering all of the warlords of Ratatak, but in her attempt to assassinate Osika, she was captured and forced to fight in the gladiator fighting pits. At this time, the Clone Wars had begun, and Count Dooku, a Sith Lord, was in search of an acolyte of the dark side. Dooku was attracted to this fighter, and her affinity to the dark side of the Force. So the Count killed Osika while he watched Ventress battle, and after the fight approached Ventress. She claimed to be a dark side user, but Dooku showed her the real power of the dark side, filling her with force lightning. This was a sign of dominance, to show he would be her new master. Ventress understood, and became the new Acolyte of Darkness. Dooku then gifted Ventress dual lightsabers, which belonged to his old apprentice, Kamari Vosa. The Dark Jedi was prepared to serve as a commander of the Separatist army. Ventress was ordered to look into Genza Sereno, Count Dooku's sister, and she would eventually assassinate her for her master. For the information she held of the Count was pertinent, and she was a risk to the plot of the Sith. During the Clone Wars, Ventress would be in constant competition with Confederate military leader General Grievous for her master's approval. Ventress conducted many missions to weaken the Republic and defeat the Jedi. She all the while grew stronger in the dark side of the Force. So much so that it could be felt by Palpatine, the master of the Sith. Palpatine ordered Dooku to kill his apprentice to prove his loyalties to him. So on a mission where she was in life-threatening danger, she called her master for reinforcements. She was refused, and Dooku told her she had failed him for the last time, and she had to die. Ventress was able to evade the assassination attempt and flee to her home world of Dathomir. The Night Sisters and Mother Talzin accepted Ventress back into the Coven and collectively began plotting the revenge of Count Dooku. Ventress attempted to ambush Dooku on Sereno with 2 others, but the assassination attempt was unsuccessful, and when she realized she was not going to be victorious, she escaped. She and Mother Talzin devised another plan to take action against the Sith. Count Dooku traveled to Dathomir to speak with Mother Talzin in hopes to finding another apprentice strong in the Force. Mother Talzin gave him a warrior within the same bloodline of Palpatine's old apprentice, Darth Maul. Ventress went to the Night Brothers to find a worthy warrior. After days of challenges, Savage Opress was chosen and taken to Mother Talzin, where the Night Sisters of the Coven cast spells to grow his stature as well as his anger, hate, and connection to the dark side. Count Dooku took his new apprentice and would begin training him, unknowing that he was a plant to one day ambush the Count and destroy him. During Savage's first few missions, he slayed 2 Jedi, which caught the attention of the Jedi High Council, which launched an investigation spearheaded by Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker to Dathomir. Ventress knew that she must strike with her plan before the Jedi stopped Savage, so she tracked him down, but he was intercepted by the same 2 Jedi, so Ventress had to wait. Savage was trying to gain the Tidorian monarch to join the Separatists, but in the disturbance, slayed the king. Savage escaped and returned to Dooku on his starship, and was immediately punished for his failure, with blasts of electric current. Ventress then surprised both of them with her presence. The two began fighting Dooku, overpowering him and even disarming him at a point, but Dooku was able to use Force Lightning to defend himself. With every miss of his lightsaber, Ventress lashed out to Savage. The overwhelm of both authority figures talking down and degrading him physically and emotionally caused Savage to snap, turning the ambush into a 3-way battle. Dooku was able to escape through a trapdoor, and Ventress pursued him, leaving Savage behind. Dooku led them to the lower levels of the Star Destroyer, where he gained the upper hand and disarmed Ventress. Dooku was about to strike down on her, but she quickly used the Force to push Dooku's blade into a pipe, which had toxic gases flowing through it, and with the distraction was able to retrieve her lightsaber and retreat into an escape pod. Ventress returned to the Night Sisters, where they washed her from her old life, and officially took her into the Coven. But before the celebration of the ceremony had ended, Dooku had sent General Grievous to slaughter all of the Night Sisters, including Mother Talzin. Although the Night Sisters fought valiantly, and Ventress did her best against Grievous, Mother Talzin was slain, and Ventress was one of the few survivors of the massacre. Ventress made her way to the planet of Tatooine, where she drank her sorrows away. One afternoon, a bounty hunter began harassing her to join him, and when she was finally fed up with his taunt, she killed him, which caught the attention of the other bounty hunters of his syndicate. To avoid an unwanted entanglement with the Hutts, Ventress joined the bounty hunters, Bas Galatz, C-12 Highsinger, and their leader, Boba Fett. Ventress clashed with being led by a young Boba Fett, and made her disdain well known. She was placed in charge of guarding a prisoner who played on Ventress's heartstrings, sharing how she had been taken from her homeworld at a young age. But Ventress was not swayed, not until Boba shared that she would not be getting a fair cut of the bounty, to which she force-choked Boba and tied him up. Ventress then released the prisoner and turned in the bounty, but left before it could be found out that the prisoner was really just Boba Fett. Ventress still used the prisoner to her advantage, to hold her for ransom from her family, able to make a gain, but still returning her home. Ventress split the earnings with the syndicate, but told them she needed to be on her own. Ventress pursued being a solo bounty hunter, until one day, while on Tatooine, she received word that there was a high bounty on Savaj's head, so she took the job and went off looking for him. It led her to Rydonia, where she found an imprisoned Obi-Wan Kenobi, Savaj, along with Darth Maul, a thought-to-be-dead apprentice of the Sith. Having a common enemy with her foe of the past, Ventress banded together with Obi-Wan to fight the brothers. The unlikely couple were overwhelmed by the brothers, but were able to evade and flee to safety. Not long after, she would receive notice of a bounty for a Jedi Padawan, Ahsoka Tano, for bombing the Jedi Temple. It didn't take Ventress long to track down the Jedi, but she was convinced to not turn in the apprentice, but rather help her prove her innocence, in exchange for her helping to be pardoned from the Jedi. Ahsoka and Ventress were able to find evidence to prove her innocence. Ventress fled after finding a warehouse of explosives, but before she did, she reminded Ahsoka to keep her end of the bargain. On her way home, Ventress was attacked by the Jedi Barriss Offee, who was indeed the one who set off the explosives in the Jedi Temple. She planned to frame Ahsoka and Ventress. Ventress, unconscious, had her helmet and lightsaber stolen by the Jedi, who went back to fight Ahsoka in disguise. Ahsoka was eventually caught and believed to have been working with Ventress, and was going to face a military tribunal. Anakin hunted down Ventress, and with force was able to learn of Barriss Offee and find the Jedi had framed Ahsoka. Although the Jedi Council was going to allow her to stay in the Order, she decided to leave before keeping her word of helping pardon Ventress. Ventress left the Core Worlds and obtained a gunship to pursue her skills as a bounty hunter. After losing her lightsaber to the Jedi, she was able to acquire one off the black market, one that illuminated a yellow hue, which satisfied her for not resembling one of the Sith or Jedi. While searching for a bounty, another bounty hunter, Quinlan Vos, was looking for the same bounty, but unbeknownst to her, Quinlan was actually a Jedi Master whose mission from the Jedi Council was to assassinate Dooku. Quinlan insisted that he and Asajj work together, and although at first she refused, he proved he was worthy, and Ventress's attraction to him didn't hurt either. Quinlan was able to hide that he was a Jedi for a while as they worked together, traveling and successfully completing many missions. After one disturbing mission, he divulged his identity, to which the Night Sister confessed her heavy suspicion, so she was hardly surprised who he truly was. It had been nearly a year since the massacre of the Night Sisters on Dathomir, and that is where Ventress and Quinlan arrived to prepare to fight Dooku. Ventress shared dark side philosophy with him and lied, telling him that it was Dooku who had killed his master, and how embracing the anger would only make him stronger in the Force. Quinlan and Ventress would fall in love, which was just another step off the Jedi path for him. They trained heavily in preparation of facing Dooku, and when the time was right, they headed over to the planet of Raxus to ambush Dooku at a gala, where the high society of the planet were honoring him with a humanitarian award. Upon arrival, Ventress approached Dooku, while Quinlan went off to trap Grievous so he could not interfere. Dooku was shocked to find his old apprentice, and he wanted to strike her down, but he held his composure. She invited him into the hall to have it out privately. Dooku called on Grievous to meet him, and to his surprise, Quinlan arrived, and their battle ensued. Dooku was able to force push Ventress, knocking her unconscious, and when she came to, not but moments later, Grievous had joined the fight, as well as battle droids. Ventress was forced to flee, and Quinlan was captured by Dooku. As a prisoner, Quinlan began to believe that Ventress had set a trap for him. and his feeling of anger led him deeper down the path of the dark side until he was fully enveloped by it. Ventress, with nowhere else to turn, called on Boba Fett and his syndicate. And although Boba was resistant, the offer of 250,000 credits were enough to convince the team. They traveled to Sereno, knowing that Dooku would have taken Quinlan there to torture and imprison him. Upon arrival, the bounty hunters caused a distraction, allowing for Ventress to go find Quinlan. When she finally arrived at the prison cell, she found her lover curled up and crying from the torture he had endured, or so she thought. It was revealed to Quinlan with his psychometry ability, when he touched his fallen master's lightsaber, that it was Ventress who actually killed him. He began force choking her and tossing her about the room. His anger and embrace to the dark side was strong. The bounty hunters were getting pinned down by the legion of battle droids, and although they were able to subdue the Sith Lord Dooku, they wouldn't be able to hold the line. Ventress was able to reach them with Quinlan, and it was then that she knew he had not just fallen to the dark side, but had joined the Sith Order. From when Quinlan saw his abuser and captor, he ran to aid him. The mission had failed, and it was time for the bounty hunters to retreat, and they were able to escape safely. Ventress moved back to the lower levels of Coruscant, and reached out to Obi-Wan to inform him that Jedi Master Quinlan had fallen to the Sith, and was now known as Admiral Enigma. For months after, Ventress lived a depressed, miserable life, always looking over her shoulder, afraid Quinlan would send forces to hunt her down. One evening while walking home, a mysterious figure was following Ventress, so she attacked him and learned it was a Jedi, Akar Desh, going against the Jedi Council's orders to find Ventress and to beg her to help him to rescue his old friend. Obi-Wan and Anakin Skywalker also joined the party in bringing the matter before the Jedi High Council. The Jedi were hesitant and reluctant to even hold this meeting for all of Ventress's past war crimes, as many of the Jedi had had near-death experiences at her hand, but they could sense the truth in her testimony. And though not all the Jedi Council agreed, Yoda thought it was right to move forward in a rescue mission to save Quinlan, and offered Ventress a pardon if she joined the Jedi on a rescue mission. Ventress, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Anakin Skywalker left Coruscant, using a powerful cloaking device and security codes Ventress had known to maneuver within the Confederacy convoy. They were able to land in Dooku's dreadnought. They made their way to the bridge, where they surprisingly only found Count Dooku, and a battle quickly ensued. Although Ventress and Obi-Wan were able to break away after discovering Quinlan was in the prison quarters, hoping that it meant that the Jedi had not truly fallen to the dark side. Upon getting to his cell, Quinlan tried to apologize for attacking Ventress on Sereno, making the excuse he was trying to trick Dooku, but she didn't believe him and claimed she could still feel the dark side in him, saying that the only way to free him was through death. Anakin caught up with them, and they realized they needed to escape. Although Ventress didn't trust Quinlan, he assisted in their escape and arrival back on Coruscant. Ventress returned to her life of solitude, but was constantly thinking of Quinlan. She decided to go back to Pantora, the place where they had first met. In search of closure, Quinlan also traveled there, hoping to find her. She could now sense there was no darkness left in him, and he promised he would leave the Order to be with her, but not until he was able to defeat Count Dooku. Ventress and Quinlan would occasionally meet back on Coruscant, just to spend time together, but during one meeting, he revealed that the Jedi had tasked him out on completing his original mission of taking out Count Dooku. Ventress begged him to escape with her and just leave, but he refused, so she said she would join him. He brought her to the Jedi Temple to go over the plans of the mission, and although the Jedi were not thrilled, they accept Ventress's willingness to help. Ventress and Quinlan would set off once more to Dooku's ship over the planet of Christophsis. But Obi-Wan and Anakin were tailing them, as the Jedi Order had doubts about Quinlan's true allegiances. Quinlan dueled Dooku and was able to disarm the Sith Lord, but refused to strike him down, asking first who his master was. Anakin arrived and arrested both of the men, as it appeared Quinlan was still embracing the dark side of the Force. Dooku and Quinlan were able to escape with Ventress's assistance, although seeing her old master again brought up much disdain for both parties. Their ship was shot down, but they survived, crashing to the planet's surface. Dooku was injured, but the three of them made their way to a separatist tower. Shortly after, they were bombarded by Skywalker's forces, re-injuring Dooku. Ventress wanted to let him die, but Quinlan was persistent in wanting Dooku to lead him to Sidious so he could kill them both. Dooku had awakened and shot a blast of force lightning at Quinlan. Ventress quickly jumped in the way, absorbing the brunt of it, and her body immediately went limp. Quinlan recognized his fall to the dark side in Ventress's sacrifice, and he turned back to the light, stopping Dooku, but refusing to kill him. Dooku was able to escape with reinforcements sent by Sidious. Anakin and Obi-Wan had found Quinlan and Ventress and retrieved them. Several months after her apparent passing, Quinlan and Obi-Wan brought Ventress to lay to rest on Dathomir. Years would pass, and the records are unsure how, with no other explanation but Night Sister magic, did Asajj Ventress survive. But she was found on the planet of Pabu. She helped a mutated clone child, Omega, who was a Force-sensitive being, assisting her to understand her powers and warning her that the new Empire was searching for beings with high midichlorian counts to destroy. After assisting the child and her team known as the Bad Batch, Asajj Ventress flew off, and the archives hold no other knowledge of where she had gone, if she still lives, or when she might have died. But this is the tragedy of Asajj Ventress as we know it now.